You are not going to want to miss this. If you are somebody that is searching for fulfillment, if you are somebody that is thinking that there's more to your life than you're getting right now, we have brought Dr. Ezekiel Taylor into the house to help you bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to be. Doc, tell us what we're going to learn.
You got to first and foremost learn how to get out of your own way. I'm just excited about what's getting ready to take place in your life. You don't get out of life what you want, you get out of life who you are. And it's time for you to now reprogram your subconscious with your wants, your wishes, your desires, and your dreams. I want to be a part of that. I'm here for coaching, I'm here for seminars, and I'm just getting ready to do some great things with my brother, Glenn Bill.
What is the roadmap to defeat self-sabotage, negative thinking, and learned helplessness? In these unprecedented times, you must get connected, get growing, get certain, and get attitude. The Get Attitude Podcast. And welcome to the Get Attitude Podcast, the GAP. My name is Glenn Bill. I am your host, the founder of the University of Attitude, the author of the ABCs of Attitude. And guess what? We are here to help you get attitude. And man, let me tell you something. We got a person that's going to come up today that's going to reach inside your heart and inside your head, and he's going to give you the attitude you need to bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to be, and from who you are to who you want to become. I have the wonderful Dr. Ezekiel Taylor. He is the author of The Process of Fulfillment. He is also the national spokesperson for HDlife. And I'm just going to give you a little taste of him right now. Let's bring that up, Jason.
Potential. Every relationship you're in should carry potential. You should be able to immediately ascertain where a relationship is going and what the result of the relationship should be. Immediately, you should be able to ascertain where this relationship, what is the potential that you have with coming into proximity with me? What is the potential that we carry, Brother Charles, by us being friends, by us being brothers? What is it that is the potential of the relationship? And what is the end game? I can see
Boom, and welcome to the Get Attitude Podcast. Dr. Ezekiel, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, brother. How you doing today?
I am good, and I can tell you this. The potential of this podcast, the potential of what's getting ready to happen if you are out there with your earbuds in or if you're in your car, the potential is this. Dr. Ezekiel is going to talk to us about fulfillment, but he's also going to talk to us about how to cross that bridge from who you are to who you want to become. And
Absolutely.
I love it. And he does that in his book called The Process of Fulfillment. Talk to me a little bit about the book, and what's your thought when you hear or when somebody says, Doctor, I need to know how to get from point A to point B. What's your thought on that and the attitude that it takes?
Well, the first thing I would like to share is the fact that most people start from a place where there is no end, if you will. So I ask a question at the beginning of the book. I say, what do you want? Here's the problem. Most people don't even dream anymore. I had a talk with Les. We did an interview some time ago, Les Brown, of course. Mm-hmm. We did an interview some time ago, and he told me that he went over to Africa, and he began to talk about dreaming. As you know, he talks about dreams a lot. And he found out that in Africa, this audience couldn't receive what he was saying because they don't even know how to dream. They don't know how to get beyond their current circumstance. So I had to go back when I wrote the book, and I had to really come to grips with the fact that people need to really see what it is that they truly desire. Because what this does is it gives the brain a picture. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today, about giving the brain a picture. Because at HDlife, the company you said I'm the international spokesperson for, we deal with the fact that there is a process and it looks like something inside the body. A lot of us are dealing with psychology, but at HDlife, what we do is we deal with the physiological aspects of what's taking place on the inside so we can see something take place on the outside. So just a little bit about the picture in your head. Now I'm going to talk a little bit of science. Is that okay, Bill?
Absolutely.
All right, so here we go.
We got to help people. Bring it.
Okay, so when you have a thought, what happens, that thought is actually stored in what we call the cerebral cortex. With it being stored in the cerebral cortex, it does something pretty amazing. It fires immediately in what we call the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus, out of the hypothalamus, it goes into what we call the pituitary gland. Now here's where the magic happens. In the pituitary gland, hormones are created that match the picture of what it is that is your thought. So when we talk about the fact that thoughts create things, it actually creates something on the inside of you first. And I always tell people this: you don't get out of life what you want, you get out of life who you are. So if you can start with a picture, an internal biophysical picture of what it is that is your desire, now you're starting the process of fulfillment. So we talk also about, if I'm just going on, but
no, do it.
We only got a little bit of time, but we also talk about reprogramming the subconscious mind. Because once again, we talk about the fact that you don't get out of life what you want, you get out of life who you are. And most people are getting just that. They're getting who they are because they don't even realize that their subconscious program has been programmed from age 0 to 35. And now you get to a point where people having to change or wanting and desiring change really takes some coaching. And that's what we offer here at HDlife.
I like it. I like it. So that sounds like As a Man Thinketh. I'm sure you've read that book.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What we did is we took As a Man Thinketh, which was an excerpt from the Bible, actually. We took As a Man Thinketh, and then we went in and we studied the biophysical aspects of what takes place in the body. And it's pretty amazing because we talk theoretically. I don't know if you shared with the people, but I have a doctorate in theology and biblical studies. That was my background. Okay. I pastored a church for 10 years, and I ran across Les Brown. Let me tell you my Les Brown story. This is pretty interesting. This is exactly how you and I met.
Right.
So I was helping a friend along who was also a pastor, and he was going to the John Maxwell. You familiar with John Maxwell?
Sure,
of course?
Yeah.
The John Maxwell certification program. So what I did, which is what I do, I decided to sign up alongside him because I knew that he would complete the program better if I was alongside him doing it with him. So I sacrificed the money, and I really didn't know very much about John Maxwell. And surprisingly enough, my mother had been trying to get me to listen to Les Brown all my life, and I had never listened to a Les Brown speech.
Wow.
So we get to the final certification in Florida, and out comes on the stage this Mongol of a speaker. And he began to speak, and I looked over at my friend, and I said, I'm supposed to be connected to him. Now, out of my mouth, I said that. I walked outside the auditorium, and I'm thinking, I've seen big speakers speak, and usually they rush off in the back and get in their limo and leave. Well, Les Brown was actually outside speaking to people and shaking hands. And our eyes crossed, and he asked me to come over, and I talked to him. Told him I was from Chicago, and he immediately started to talk to me about Chicago. Now, my previous mentor, Dr. Nasser Siddiqui, out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, he taught us to always have a business card. So right before I left to go to this particular event, I made up some business cards. And I was looking at Les, and I had a moment, Glenn, that could have changed my life forever, where fear almost took over. And I said, well, why would this man want my business card? And so I began to leave, and he stopped me. I'm going to tell you the power of a connection. He stopped me, and he said, do you have a business card?
Wow.
I handed him my business card, and about a week later, I get a phone call from a weird number. I never check my voicemails. I call him back, and he said, this is Les Brown. What can I do for you? Well, I was shocked, and I didn't want to take this moment lightly. So I said, can I call you back? Glenn, I told Les Brown I'm going to call him back. So I had to talk with some people and find out exactly what it was that he did. Called him back, and to make a long story short, I shared with him my vision and what it was that I was doing. He invited me down to Florida to do a one-on-one training. He and I sat together, and he looked at me and he told me, he said, there's nothing I can teach you. He said, you remind me of Farrakhan meeting Jesse Jackson. He said, you're a master communicator and a master orator at the same time. He said, you play both sides of the court. He said, but what I can do is I can help you change your language. He said, what you're doing right now, as far as the church is concerned, you're speaking to within the four walls of the church, where your message should go internationally. So what he did is he shared with me a young man by the name of Dr. Milton Howard Jr., who's out of DeBary, Florida, the president, CEO, and founder of HDlife. I did my second day of training with him, and he came in and he basically changed my language. At that time, I did not know how to encourage anyone without using God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and the Bible and Scripture.
Right.
I could do it as the best could. But what I found out is that shuts down the ears of some people who are not religious folk, if you will.
Sure.
And so what he began to do is to share a new language, and that new language was a personal development language that I learned. And together we wrote a book called The Process of Fulfillment, 8 Extraordinary Steps to Accomplish Your Greatness. And that began a lifelong friendship and mentorship with Les Brown and with Dr. Milton Howard Jr. And I'm just excited about what's getting ready to take place. Les and I have planned some things. Before COVID hit, it was about to be a big, huge book launch, and we were going to do a meeting. But as you know, COVID kind of put a pause on everything. So everything's gone virtual and Zoom now. So just kind of got to get with the times, if you will.
Right, and especially with Les, he ain't going to mess with nobody in person. Except,
not right now.
Except his squirrel Tyrone. So let's talk about this thing called attitude. If you, what's your definition of attitude?
Attitude. My definition of attitude is, the foundation of life, if you will, is what you bring to the table, what you bring to the party. You can either turn somebody on or off with your disposition, and I think that has everything to do with attitude.
Very good. And when you think about your greatest attitude coaches, of course, I know you said Dr. Nassar Sadiq and Dr. Milton Howard and Les. What about in your younger life? Who were the attitude coaches, if you will, that influenced you as a boy even?
Well, I started off playing sports. My mom was a single mother, and she was all about attempting to make sure we had positive male role models. So I played baseball, basketball, I swam all my life, and by way of coming in proximity with these men now, even having children myself and seeing how difficult it is to really deal with children on a mass scale, I have a lot more respect for these mentors who took the time out of their busy schedules to actually coach us at the baseball fields and at the basketball courts.
Cool.
And so I do have to pay homage to them because I got some great life lessons in my youthful days from my sports coaches.
And then let's talk about, you mentioned what I would probably consider a very good attitude coach, your mother. I'd love to know what her name was and what was her story and what was her attitude.
Well, I have a very, very powerful story about my mother. Again, my mother, single mother, doing the best she could. But my mother was into things that most mothers weren't at that time. I wasn't able to eat candy. I couldn't watch television. I had to read books. That was the only thing I was able to do.
Wow.
And my mother put me to sleep every night with Emil, I forget the guy's name, but there's a saying, every day and every way I'm getting better and better and better. And she had a cassette tape on auto repeat, and it said every day and every day I'm getting better and better and better every night.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, to this day, when I wake up in the morning, no matter what happened the previous day, that programming is in my head that every day and every way I'm getting better and better and better. My biophysical makeup is prepared on a day-to-day basis to take on new information, to take on a new attitude, if you will. And I love it. We had a period of time, because I went through, of course, the adolescent years of my life. I kind of rebelled, as most of us do, with these powerful energies that we carry. And my mother put me out, 14, 15 years old, trying to figure out what I was going to do. But I'm going to tell you something. With watching these children today, and we have a generation of children who they think the world owes them something. But I was able, within a grind, to figure out. I started off at 14. I started cutting hair, so I started off with my own first business as a barber, working in a barbershop at 14 years old.
Cool.
And so I started to generate money, and I understood the concepts of entrepreneurship, and that began right there. And then from there on out, I started buying cars at 16. And so by age 18, I had owned 4 cars that I had bought myself. I was a Chicago lifeguard. And, I just developed a mental fortitude, if you will, never to have to depend on someone else, but always making a way for myself. And so at the time, I resented her. I'm not going to lie. I'm on your show telling the truth. I resented my mother. But later on, buying a 5-bedroom house at 22 years old in the suburbs of South Holland, down the street from, at the time, my mother-in-law, I was able to purchase a 5-bedroom house at 22 years old that was bigger than my wife's mother's house. Because I did have that drive. I had that get up and go to say I was going to do something for myself. So full circle, I come back and I started church in 2009. And my mother joined the church. Now, I'm sure she joined it out of support at first. But come to find out, I ended up being my mother's mentor and her pastor. And during the 10 years that I pastored the church, I have to say she probably only missed one service.
Wow.
She was there in support, but what she did tell me that it was phenomenal to watch the unfolding of me as her son. Because when I was born, she actually had a dream, and she said I came out talking. And she had to put her hand over my mouth and say, "Be quiet, they're going to take you from me." So there were a lot of prophetic visions, if you will, and a lot of foundational things that took place in my life that really speak to who I am today.
That's cool. And what's her name?
Cheryl Beya, Beyaah.
All right, Cheryl. Is she still with us?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, she is. She's taking care of my sister's kids. But I will tell you, my brother's a Chicago police officer, and I don't know, Glenn, if you know this, but I'm also a Chicago firefighter.
Are you still an active firefighter?
I'm still an active firefighter, and I'm the chef at the firehouse. So I cook, I fight fires, I write books, I speak. I still hold a cosmetology license. I traveled the world doing hair shows for about 10 years. I worked for a company called Farouk Systems. They were the #1 producer of products and tools in the world at a time. So I was one of the only African-American artists to have the honor and privilege to travel the world and doing hair shows for Mr. Farouk Shamee. And interestingly enough, Farouk, when I left to start the church, he told me, don't take religion so seriously. And most recently, he went on one of the posts on Facebook, and he told me how proud of me he was. And he, notably, to this day, is the first billionaire hairstylist. His name is Farouk Shamee. So he was one of the people who helped catapult me into who I am right now.
Sounds like I need to get him on the Gap.
Oh, absolutely. He would he would really be an entertaining guest. Definitely.
You can help me make that happen, I hope.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure, brother.
Let's talk about being a firefighter, the attitude of a firefighter, or what's the attitude lesson? You've been a firefighter, I think, for 20 years. Is that right?
Well, actually, I was part of a lawsuit and once again, I say there are no happenstances in life. I went through a transition where the hair industry, I had stopped doing hair shows, and I had given the ministry my whole heart. I wasn't taking a salary from the ministry, and so I had gotten to a place where I thought I had made a challenging decision, if you will, because I stopped traveling the world doing hair shows, which was lucrative. I was making good money doing that. And I started doing full-time ministry and gave all of my time over to that. So my finances took a spin at that time.
Yeah.
And then one day I got a letter in the mail saying that there was a lawsuit. I didn't even remember taking the test to become a Chicago firefighter. One of my older brothers made me take it when I was a teenager because he was concerned about where I was going. But I got a letter, and it stated, do you want to take the money or do you want the job? Because there was a lawsuit, and it had gotten all the way to the Supreme Court. So long story short, a couple months later, I had taken the job, and I was part of a historical class, the 111 out of Chicago. There were 111 black firefighters running up and down Michigan Avenue in our 40s, or some of us in our 30s and 40s, in the fire academy. I then became a Chicago firefighter, and working 88 days a year is the best part-time job there is. I was able to write my book. I'm able to still travel and speak. And yeah, it's just great. I'm on a 20-day furlough right now down in Florida, vacationing, coming up with the next part of our plan to launch HDlife, man. And I'm just living the dream right now.
That's good. And so for those of us that are listening, I think it's so important as Dr. Ezekiel is telling us about his story and his life story, all the different things that you've done. And that comes from an attitude of a lack of fear, an attitude of a generous amount of grace, some self-belief. And if you're listening to this right now and you're sitting there going, I'm at a place where I know I need a change, but I can't make the change, we need to listen in to hear what our good friend Dr. Ezekiel's talking about, because if he can do it, you can do it. What would you say to our listeners who are stuck in their life right now, that know that they're not supposed to be where they're supposed to be? What direction can you give them? What hope can you give them as they listen?
Well, Glenn, I tell you, you asked me earlier about the attitude of a firefighter, and I kind of want to start this off with that. It says something about firefighters that when everyone's running out of a burning building, that we're running in. So my suggestion is to run into the fire.
Yes.
Most people are afraid of their own voice, if you will. You know, in the Bible, it talks about the voice of the Lord approaching Adam in the cool of the day. And what we found out is the voice of the Lord was actually the potential that Adam had. And it said he got scared and he ran and hid. And I believe this is where we are right now, because in recession and during these times, this is when more millionaires are made than any time in history. And so I truly believe that they're the people who are really going to have that attitude of running into the fire, that attitude of really understanding a clear vision and really recreating that vision mentally and biophysically, that they're going to have an energy signature to draw out of the universe the things such as relationships with Les Brown. So I'll share this with you. I'm a firm believer in the power of relationships, and that there's no such thing as self-esteem. I know a lot of people are going to challenge me on that, but in chapter 2 of my book, I begin to talk about the investment of esteem and the fact that esteem comes from others. Did you know, Glenn, that when you have the right type of attention from someone, that your body actually goes into what's called an alkaline state, or a state of homeostasis, where all of the cells in your body begin to line up and they are primed to do the miraculous, or what we think is miracles. But once we can actually put words to miracles, it becomes a technology. So it's no longer a miracle. Jesus walking on the water wasn't a miracle. He was just operating on a different vibration. But I'll tell you, and this is where most people are right now, they're in poor relationships where they're receiving the wrong type of attention, sometimes in the name of having family members, or there are people who are stuck in marriages and they think that something horrible is going to happen if they get out of that relationship. I want to come on right now and tell them something horrible is happening because you're staying in the relationship. People's bodies are in an acidic state, which is primed for disease. This rampant cancer thing that we're seeing right now has more to do with the wrong type of energy being received in relationships. And if we can fix relationships along with a clear vision, then we can get to part 3 of my book, where I talk about creating an environment for growth. And everything grows. You talk about physically, you talk about in the plant kingdom, everything happens as a result of this process of growth. I'm sure you understand the process of seed time and harvest. And this, once again, is foundational biblical truths, but we can put a science to it and really show you that everything in the universe is growing.
Yeah, that is such great advice, and it is so true. And I coached football for 25 years. We were very successful, and I never really knew what my secret was, but I think you just said it, is that you do get esteem from others. And as a coach, and as you mentioned, your coaches as a child, they obviously put that esteem in you. And I think that's such a beautiful concept that I had never thought of. So, man, that's a big bomb, and that's a big takeaway for the Get Attitude, our gappers that are out there listening. Now, I want to get back to, is it Mr. Shamee, the billionaire?
Yes, Shamee. Farouk Shamee.
Farouk.
Shami.
Right. So I know we're going to have him on, but he obviously affected your attitude. I'd love to know what his attitude lesson was that you took from him. It sounds like you were a young man. He took you under his wing, $1 billion not a hairdresser, but
hairdresser.
A hairdresser.
Seriously.
What was it about him that attracted you to him? Why do you think you had a shared experience, and what was his attitude?
Well, I'll give you a little bit about the hair industry. Every barber starting off and every hairstylist, when you walk into one of those convention centers and you see this big stage with lights and microphones and this one guy on the stage doing hair, everyone aspires to be that guy on that stage. As I did. I remember walking into the Midwest Beauty Show, or America's Beauty Show now, at the McCormick Place. It used to be at the Rosemont Convention Center. And I remember walking past this stage, and it was the biggest, loudest stage. It shut everybody down. They had pyros, they had lights, they had it looked like a stage from Vegas. And so his thing was go big or go home. I watched him with that attitude put money and invest money into the appearance and what it was he was doing. Now, I will tell you this. I started off as an educator, and there was a lady who was a vice president, and her name was Dixie Pelfrey. And Dixie, she actually trained speakers outside of her job at Farouk Systems as the vice president of shows and education. So she saw my potential. She pulled me to the side and she told me, she said, I have something that I want to do with you. And I can't tell you right now, but trust me. So she pulled me into the show department out of education, and then she put me on stage. And what she did is she taught me what Les said he saw in me. I began to learn this from some woman who just saw some potential in me at a hair company.
Wow.
And so she began to teach me how to position myself on stage, how to engage an audience, how to use certain vernaculars. She taught me all of these things, and she was teaching me so I could do sales for Farouk Systems. Little did she know, she was actually preparing me for a television broadcast and to be able to minister and teach. I used to tell people all the time, I teach and preach on the level that the world or the church has ever seen before, all to the glory of God. It's something that she prepared me for, to actually have the skill set to present from stage. And so I went from presenting from stage for Farouk Systems to presenting from stage on behalf of God, Jesus, and the Bible, to now shifting all of that and all of that experience into presenting on stage and presenting in seminars and classes and doing counseling for personal development, to bring people into their best life yet, and so they could live their greatest life.
Yeah, isn't that great? And I think as our gappers are listening to this, the question is who is that lady in your life? Maybe it's time that you reach out, acknowledge them, and thank them. But sometimes we never know as people the ripple effect we cause in someone's life. And sometimes we don't know as people the ripple effect others have caused in our life, and we've never gone back to reconnect or be with them. But more importantly, maybe, just maybe, those of you who are listening, you need to be that person. Are you going out, as we talk about in Attitude Booster number 1, being nice? And are you going out looking at the potential in other people, and what are you doing to lift them up? I promise you this, and I think Dr. Ezekiel will agree with me, the more people that we can raise up in our life, that will help us bridge the gap from who we are to who we want to be, and maybe we need to be more proactive in raising those people up that encounter us.
Well, as the mindset, and as I listen to you, Glenn, the mindset that you have as a coach, having poured into so many young men and maybe women, it says something about what it is that we get back from the universe. And there's a certain grace that you have on your life, because I'm sure you weren't doing it for money, and as I wasn't pouring into people's lives for money, but I actually had a genuine desire to help see change in people. And whereas you are presenting a skill set, and I'm sure it was more about the attitude of the young men you were coaching, you were probably doing more for preparing them for life ventures than actually going out on the field to play the game, if you will,
right,
to play life's game. And so it says something about your energy signature and the grace that's on your life. And I just want to celebrate you right now and tell you that, I'm honored to be a part of what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to coming alongside you to help really make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, me and you are going to tear some stuff up. I promise.
My man.
So now what we're going to do is take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back with Knowledge Through the Decades with the great Dr. Ezekiel Taylor. And welcome back to the Get Attitude Podcast. This is Glenn Bill. We are here with Dr. Ezekiel Taylor. Dr. Taylor is dropping some big bombs on us about attitude, the attitude of giving, the attitude of esteem, the attitude of the process of fulfillment. And this is one of the favorite parts of our show that we do with every guest. And what we're going to do is walk you through your life, called Knowledge Through the Decades. And what we want to focus on is the attitude lesson, right? Okay. Attitude, as we know, is defined as the way you dedicate yourself to the way you think. But you know what? I'm open to anybody's definition of attitude. And so what we do is, I don't know if you remember when you were born, but it was kind of cool when you said, I had a dream that you were born talking. So maybe you remember being born, maybe you don't, but what is the attitude lesson of a newborn baby or your birth?
Well, the attitude lesson I got from my mother was to close my mouth. Sometimes we speak too soon, brother, and I think we need to spend more time listening and learning. There's a lot of people, especially with this social media format and open forum, there are many people talking and not a whole lot of people saying something. And I believe that what the lesson I got from my mother at that time would have been to study to show myself approved, to make sure that when I did open my mouth, I knew what I was saying. Over the years, I can honestly say that I don't have very much just going back in the archives and looking at what I've said, where I would be considered a hypocrite or that I would want to change. But I did have a few things that from a theological perspective that I've gone back to correct, and I was very open about it. And it's okay to be open and to correct yourself or be corrected. So I think, once again, that first life lesson as a baby would be to close my mouth and listen more before I open my mouth and speak.
I love it. I love it. Now I want you to think about when you were 10 years old.
Okay.
That probably puts you in 3rd or 4th grade.
Yeah.
And I want to know, you weren't a doctor then, you were just little. Did they used to call you Zeke, or were you always Ezekiel?
Zeke. I was Zeke. My mother, and I hate that I'm saying this, my mother to this day still calls me Zeke. So, but I was Zeke. And when you said 3rd grade, I immediately transferred back to 3rd and 4th grade. I can remember it like it was yesterday.
And what was the attitude lesson from those 3rd and 4th grade? What do you think you learned?
Well, in 3rd and 4th grade, I was finishing my work before the rest of the class, and I was a class clown. And so the attitude lesson was to not be a distraction to others just because you have finished your work, but to actually be a help to others and not a distraction.
I know the feeling. I always finished my test early, though, because I was ADD and I could never pay attention through the whole test, so I turned my tests in. I'd be like, damn, I'm done first. She's like, you didn't do the back page, bro. I'm like, oh, okay. Right.
That's a little different.
But I think what a beautiful lesson, right? For those who are advanced, instead of being a distraction, to be grace. Now you turn 20.
Okay.
Now I'm sure things were getting interesting. You had gone through your adolescence. You rebelled, and you were becoming a man. Tell me about where you were at 20. Were you in college? Would be my guess. Were you playing sport? What was going on in your life at 20, and what was the attitude lesson?
I was a playboy at 20. I was in the hair salon doing hair. I was young, new to the game, and it was overwhelming because I was playing a man's game and still going through the transition and becoming a man. And I think I got out there a bit too soon. I got married very young, and I'll tell you this. Here's the attitude in life lesson. I don't know if you're familiar with Father Michael Flager. He's having some problems here in Chicago right now. But he was my mentor at the time. I just joined the church, and I remember coming to him because I had gotten my girlfriend at the time pregnant. Mm-hmm. I just did not want to bring a child into the world and they be considered, quote unquote, a bastard. And so I thought I was doing something that would be considered righteous in the sight of God, and I got married, not out of love, not out of wanting to spend the rest of my life, but out of responsibility and really not understanding all the dynamics that went into what a marriage was. And at the time, I remember this like it was yesterday. Father Flager brought me in his office, and he told me, absolutely not. Do not get married. And I tried to explain to him I was trying to do it out of being responsible.
Yeah, obligation is the
obligation.
word.
There we go.
Right.
Thanks for that word. Out of obligation. And I didn't quite understand what he was saying, but I think my attitude lesson that I got at that time was to listen more to those who have actually gone through and have experience to speak to you, and not think you know it all.
Mm-hmm. So was he a Catholic priest?
Catholic priest. Yes.
Are you Catholic?
No, and his church is not Catholic.
I got you.
He's in a Catholic church, but he preaches a very evangelical message.
Right. So he spun off or whatever. Yeah, that's cool. I'm a little Catholic boy, so I was like, damn.
That's where I started. That was the church I started in. I didn't tell you this, Claire, but my mother, she raised us in Islam.
Oh, wow.
And then she became a Buddhist.
Wow.
And so I had to find the church myself. Now watch this. She named me Ezekiel, which means the strength of God. My middle name is Jesus.
Oh, my gosh.
My birth given name is Ezekiel Jesus Taylor.
I love it.
And then right after I was born, she married a Muslim imam. So here I am, little Ezekiel Jesus, going to the mosque every Friday and Sunday. And then she decided to become Buddhist. Well, this actually lends to the foundation that I have to look at the world from a different purview, if you will. So I don't look at everyone else who wasn't a Christian and say, all of y'all are going to hell.
Right.
I knew some wonderful people that came from different religious backgrounds. And I remember the first, going back to my first time in my 20s at the church, I remember them having a new members class and telling me that if you know anyone who hasn't accepted Jesus as their Lord and Savior, they're going to hell. Well, I raised my hand, and my mom wasn't a Christian at the time. I told him he might have a problem if he told me my mother was going to hell one more time.
Right.
So that was the day that they told me I needed to go and have personal time with the pastor, who was Father Michael Flager.
I'll be doggone.
That was the beginning of our friendship relationship, and we're still friends to this day.
And my guess is he probably believes what you believe.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. And now
I told him he needed to tell them they shouldn't be so stringent in these new believers.
Right. So we go from obligation to tolerance very quickly.
There you go. Absolutely. I love it.
I love it. All right. So, boy, you blazed through your 20s. Superstar, walking in shows. I know you always dress nice, so I know you had some killer.
I have Versace shirts on. As a matter of fact, there's a video on YouTube from my hair show days. It says it goes under Ezekiel hair show days.
I'll be damned. I'm gonna look that up.
If you get a chance, you'll get. I used to have a ponytail, Glenn.
Well, you should have if you were in the hair business.
Oh yeah, I was fly back.
What can you do with this?
Toupee.
Jason, I bet you'd love to see that, wouldn't you?
Oh, just go bald.
Maybe
brother.
we can get a 2-for-1 deal.
Right. We're both bald. No, I go bald. Bald is beautiful.
There you go.
So, so you zoomed through your 20s and then, bam, you're 30. Now, was 30 when you were pastoring, and what was the attitude lesson at 30 for you?
Well, about my mid-30s, I began to pastor. Actually, my early 30s. And so the attitude lesson was I began to look at the world because I had started attaining onto knowledge. I decided at that time I was maybe 5 or 6 years into seminary and really understanding some things, because I'm the type of person that if you present it to me, I want to know every dynamic. I want to know the working, how it works, where did it all come from. So that was kind of my drive to go to seminary, and I took it all the way and got my doctorate. Because I did not want to not know what someone else knew when it came to theological studies and the Bible. So, and in that, I like to tell people, and this may be offensive to some, but in studying and getting my doctorate, I actually studied myself out of organized religion. So that was kind of what took place, which transitioned me into personal development.
Right.
Because the things that I was discovering, I couldn't in clear conscience go before an audience and continue to speak that message when I knew more. And because a lot of us fall under the heading of certain denominations,
sure,
there's certain things you can or can't say, which was why I was non-denominational the entire time I pastored. But to speak about my 30s, I literally began to look at the world and say that it was my uncle, as a matter of fact, and Les helped me develop a story about this. But it was my uncle who sat down one day. We were sipping some cognac and smoking cigars at my kitchen table, and I'm just talking to him about the Bible, talking about life lessons I'm learning from the Bible. I have, at that time, I think I had 6 children. They were in the backyard playing on the swings, and he told me, he said, you need to share this. He said, your house is a house of knowledge, and you need to start sharing this. And so that was when I rented out a hotel meeting space, and I just started teaching Bible studies. And I thought what I could do was teach Bible studies when I got back off the road from doing hair shows. And then I opened my big mouth one day, and I said, God has told me that I'm supposed to start Sunday services. But when I said that, Glenn, I inadvertently retired from doing hair shows, and it had come out my mouth, so I couldn't take it back.
Sure.
What ended up happening, my last hair show was in the Bahamas, and I had a chance to do hair for the Miss Universe pageant as well.
Oh, my.
Farouk Shamee, yes, if you get a chance, Farouk Systems are the official sponsors for the Miss Universe and the Miss USA pageant.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so when I'm telling you, I'm gonna get you a heavy hitter on here.
I love you.
He ran for governor of Texas as well. So
did he? Oh, I can't wait to meet this guy.
Yeah, he's this little short guy, but he is. When I tell you to be around him, it's just amazing. And just to speak about energy signatures, my relationship with him, when I walked into a room. And I think I had this same thing with you, that you and I were drawn to each other,
right,
because of a specific energy signature. But when Farouk would come to the different hair shows, and it would be maybe 60, 70 artists and educators at the hair shows, he would always say, I want Zeke to come sit at my table. I want Zeke in my limousine. And once again, at the time, I didn't quite understand what it was that I had. But now in my studies and now dealing with biophysical makeups and understanding energy signatures and understanding electromagnetic field being exuded into the field of possibilities, drawing out of the universe exactly who you are, I can understand what was taking place at that time. And so my life has been such to whereas I always end up coming in proximity to great men who would help catapult me to the next level, to prepare for the next great man to catapult me to that next level. And so in my 30s, my attitude was that I was ready to pour back into people. I had learned enough to the point where I could do it on a smaller scale. And what happened is people began to see that I had potential to do it on with larger audiences and on a larger scale, which then opened doors for me to then go into the personal development arena.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. And then we hit 40. You remember your 40th birthday?
Yeah, I do. I was still, I was pastoring, and so at that time I was kind of transitioning into the personal development arena. And I just remember my my deacons at the church, because, you know, I sip a little tequila every once in a while.
I ain't mad at you.
Okay. I didn't want you judging me, brother.
No.
But
not hating, just participating with you.
There
Not
you
a
go.
problem.
We got to get a good bottle.
Right.
But yeah, my deacons, they were always protective of me, and they wanted to make sure that my image to the public was always right. But they wanted me to have a good birthday. So my birthdays, I would always travel, go to Mexico. Mexico was my go-to.
Yeah, get out of the country.
Oh yeah, I speak a little Spanish, and I remember going down to Mexico and just having a really good time and partying and just putting things in perspective. That, you know, I really want to give up having fun, and not to say that, you know, being Christian and a pastor wasn't fun, but what happened is a lot of people knew a lot about my past, and so what I found myself doing is kind of protecting the image that I was supposed to have as a pastor.
Sure.
In retrospect to what I had done in the past, and I was putting way too much energy into it, and it was depleting. And it got to the point where I started to, because one thing that I was doing, I was pouring into people who I wasn't seeing the manifestation of the wisdom and knowledge that I was pouring into them. I couldn't see it manifesting in them. And I figured something out in my early 40s. And just getting back to your question, I know I was going on and on.
The attitude lesson of 40.
I figured something out, that in order for you to really have a sense of fulfillment as a teacher, educator, or someone imparting, people have got to see the value in what you are giving. And so that was when I really understood that I needed to start charging people, because in some way, shape, or form, I had been charged for what it is that I had received over the years. All of my mentors, in some way, shape, or form, I paid them. Mm-hmm. I paid them with time, with money. You know, Les was the first person to tell me, if this is important, then you'll find the money. I had no concept of that.
Right.
I was always under the impression that you should do this because you should be able to give back. I now understand that in order for people to really value what it is that I have to give and bring to the table, that they got to pay. They have to charge. Mm-hmm. And I learned this most recently from Bob Proctor, who said he ended up charging his aunt and uncle to come to a meeting in Canada. And that was when they finally got to the point where they honored and understood what his message was, and they died millionaires.
Yes.
So that really helped me to then get to the point where I put a number and value on what it is that I present as counseling, as coaching, and in seminars. Mm-hmm. So that was the attitude lesson, that it's time to charge.
That's so cool. And when you were talking about being a pastor, and we're going to wrap it up here quick, but I had a pastor tell me, he said, Glenn, he said, here's what happened to me when I became a pastor. Everybody started lying to me because he's like, I couldn't be honest with anybody. Right. And he was like, my parishioners were lying to me, and I was kind of actually lying to them and creating my image. It was just a whole bunch of people lying to each other.
Yeah. I had that experience as well.
That's crazy, right? That's just crazy.
It is, because
how it works.
There's a stigmatism. You want to stay within the confines. There's nothing, everything that I did that didn't fall under the heading of pastor. That said that you're a fraud. And I'm like, no, I just wanted to have a drink.
Right.
That does not make everything I said over the past 10 years.
I'm down. I hear you. So let's finish up. HDlife. Talk to me about high definition life. I know this is something you're going to be launching. Is there a website? Guys, Dr. Ezekiel Taylor, you want to get hip to HDlife. I don't know when it's going to launch. Maybe just give us a time frame. What is it? Who does it serve? And then we're going to let you go.
Okay, so HDlife, we like to put it like this. Years and years ago, we had black and white TVs. And when black and white TVs came out, everyone was excited because all they had was radio. And then we moved into standard definition. So when the color TV came out, then we began to look at black and white, and we said, yeah, no, this is the best there is. And now, looking at standard definition with 4K and high definition television, you're looking at something that seems archaic. And so high definition life literally speaks to that we're at a place and a space where we're explaining and helping you to understand the dynamics of why, putting a why to the how. Because most of us can encourage like the best of them. It's easy to be an encourager, a motivator, if you will, but to actually go in to explain, because we live in an information age and everybody wants to know why. Why am I able to do this? What is this electromagnetic field? What is it doing to my body? And so at HDlife, we have spent years upon years of research and development. One of the mentors to the company is Maurice, who discovered New Edition and New Kids on the Block. And we're following the model that he set when he launched New Kids on the Block and when he launched New Edition. And that was to get everything in order. So when we launch, we have products, we have services, we have to whereas we'll have music that can help play you into your existence. There's certain music tones that go to what it is that is your dream and your desire. And the music that is going to be made specifically for people, and it's going to be a service that's offered, will help you come out of where you are to where you're going to be.
I love it.
Between the books that are written, the coaching, the seminars, products, we're going to have products and services from purses all the way down to books. And yeah, I'm just excited about what we're doing. I'm here now in my brother's house, and yeah, I'm just excited. He's of the mindset that there's a certain way to do this. There have been many people, including Les Brown, that have come to him and said, let's just launch, let's just do it this way. And so he's very consistent about making sure all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. And I'm just honored to be the face and the spokesperson of the company.
That's cool. Cool it now. Ronnie, Robbie, Ricky, and Mike. If I love the girl, who cares who you like? Okay, my brother. Well, Ezekiel, you have been just such an inspiration, and I hope that our gappers took something from your message, from listening as a baby to don't distract, to gather, and to pour back in. And you know what? It's never, ever too late to start over, especially if you got the right attitude. You want to give one last message, I hope, to our people?
Yeah, absolutely. I really want to focus on the fact that you don't get out of life what you want. Many people have desires, but it's vitally important that you become the success that you desire. You have to become that success first, because you and I both know, Glenn, that the energy signature that we have has been predicated to what it is that has been success in our lives. But we became the success first. Biophysically, I'm successful.
Yes.
When people see me, they can see a glow on me. They can see something, but I did the inner work. And now what you see is an external representation of inner work that I've done. And in today's society, we live in this microwave society where people just want to put it in the microwave and pop it right out. Well, there are years of experience, years of toil, years of reading and studying that went into Dr. Ezekiel Taylor. So I've had many people that have asked to speak on the stage at church, if you will, because I make it look so easy, only to get up there and find out, man, what you make look easy is not as easy. And I've shared with them time and time again, there's work that goes into it. So my message is, you don't get out of life what you want, you get out of life who you are. So become the success internally so we can see the representation externally.
I love it. Amen to that, Dr. Ezekiel. God bless you. You have an anointing on your life. You've blessed us at the Get Attitude podcast. You took the walk with us today to bridge the gap from those who are listening, from where they are to get where they want to be. And this is Glenn Bill signing off with Dr. Ezekiel Taylor, the face of HDlife, the author of The Process for Fulfillment, and we are out of here. God bless. We will see you later.